Okay, so before I begin this video, I need to preface that I started off with my usual camera, but the battery died. The camera said that I had a good half hour's worth of video on it, and I thought, great, so I started recording, and 10 minutes in, the camera just decided to die, because, you know, cameras be like that. So, the first half of this review is all in the traditional camera with the bookshelf, and then about halfway through it just cuts and it comes into here, but don't worry, I'll let you know basically when that happens. Alright, so enjoy. Last week was Canada Day, so let's continue on this Canadian content with another Canadian artist, Joel Plaskett. Joel Plaskett has mainly done his work with either his solo career as just Joel Plaskett, as well as Joel Plaskett Emergency. Now, Joel Plaskett Emergency is a little bit more rockish, it has a little bit more intricacies in terms of musicianship, because it's not just Joel running the show, it's more of a band. His solo stuff is a little bit more folky, a little bit more acoustic, it takes a little bit more of a tuned down approach. And that's what we see with his next effort of his solo career, the Park Avenue Sobriety Test. So let's just dive right in.
This is the Park Sobriety Test. It's a kick in your face. It's the hornet's nest.
So, much like a lot of his solo stuff, it's much more acoustical, it's a bit more adult contemporary, but it's got that definite Nova Scotian folky feel to it. It's kind of got that aftertaste throughout the whole thing. But unlike a lot of his past stuff, especially as a solo career, it's not as folky. Now, in the one sense, we are getting a lot of the more of the same from Joel, even though he is trying to, you know, branch out a little bit, trying new things. We're still kind of getting the signature sound that is Joel. If you've heard anything from him before, you're getting a lot of that same, like his signature, essentially. There's really no surprises here, and it never really wavers too far outside of the box. On the one hand, I think this is some of his best work he's done as a solo career for a long time. So right from the get-go, we have a little bit of a, kind of like a darker tone, not necessarily in like mood or atmosphere, but at least in chord structure. The album starts off in a minor, which is a little bit interesting for Joel. He tends to play more in the major keys, and that's with the Illegitimate Blues. And unlike a lot of his other solo stuff, there is a lot more going on here as opposed to just a singer-songwriter, especially on the second song, or technically the first, depending on how you want to look at it, On a Dime. There's a lot more just going on within either it's a synth or actual violins, just kind of really getting the song going. Now, one example is Credits Roll, the sixth song, kind of like the middle part of the album itself. And I really kind of like how it caps off the middle portion of the album. The song is a really good showcasing of what Joel can do in terms of harmonizing different sounds, and I thought that this was a very well put together song.
And I'll tell you where you've been. I didn't want to lose you, but I was never gonna win.
And it goes really well into the next song, which is Captains of Industry. Again, it's a little bit quiet, it's a little bit laid back, but I love Joel's ability to just really give a lot of emotion with very little, especially with his use of that guitar work. He's never been one to really make a booming sound, even with the Emergency. He's always been more of a subtle player, and I really liked his electric guitar work in Captains of Industry. It's a very soothing and almost haunting at times, but never getting into like the uncomfortable hauntingness. It's more of like a pleasant hauntingness.
If you want real love, show it.
Now, even though most of the album, like a lot of his solo stuff, is very laid back, slower in tempo, I felt there's still a few really happening songs, a few really jamming songs. And for instance, Song for Jersey is a really good, kind of a fun summertime song. And that's one of the reasons why I keep coming back to Joel and his work, is every once in a while you'll get just these fun little tracks that never really takes themselves too seriously, and it's just about having a little bit of fun. And I think that's something that the music industry isn't really doing as much today. A lot of artists are just very serious throughout the entire works, and even their happy-go-lucky songs still come with a very serious undertone. And every once in a while you just need to take a step back and just kind of like take a breath, and I felt Song for Jersey really does this very well.
World with greater good and leave your love unguarded. If you got a handgun in your glove compartment, should I be calling shotgun or the police department?
And here we come to the part where the camera died. So I'm just going to continue on blazing through. So I was talking about, and of course I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit, apologies, but I'll seem to get back on track. Again, that Song for Jersey is a very great song in that it never takes itself too seriously. And I really like how Joel Plaskett is able to do that. He can write some very beautiful and very serious songs, but he can also counteract that with just some fun songs. It goes into Broken Heart Song, which is a nice kind of a slower piece, and then we've got the title track, the Park Avenue Sobriety Test. And I really enjoy this song. It's very catchy, it's very poppy, but it never really loses that Joel Plaskett signature sound. So it's a really great way to end off the album. And with that, that's pretty much the album. As I always say, it's easier to write a slow song than it is to write a fast song. That just comes with the territory. With a fast song, the notes are all over the place, and it's really hard to kind of group them all together. In a slower song, you can take your time with it. You can let melodies develop. But I will also say that it is much harder to write a good, slower song than it is to write a good, faster song. And that just kind of comes with the territory. With a faster song, you've got a lot more energy that really lets it develop. You don't have to rely too much on the material and the atmosphere itself. You can just let the song go. So when you write a good, slower song, that is really hard to do. And I feel like Joel actually did it with this album, even though the album as a whole is much more of a sober album. It is a very beautiful album as well. I would probably say it's a good listen from start to finish. But I would also say, if you're not into that slower piece, that kind of singer-songwriter, that very personal album, you probably want to skip this one. But if you're into that stuff, definitely have a listen. And that's about it for the Park Avenue Sobriety Test by Joel Plaskett. What did you guys think? Did you have a listen to it? Let me know, comment below. And I also want to know what your favorite singer-songwriter album that's been released this year. This one's probably up there with one of my favorites. And that's it. Notes out.